Catch 'em all.
It can be pretty damn hard to consistently get in the helicopter in Ring of Elysium. With some games having up to 60 players, you need to fight your way to the end, and the last thing you need to do is make unnecessary mistakes. So today I'm going to help you stop making some of the more common mistakes that I've seen Ring players make, to give you that edge to help you get up the ladder more often than not. But before we get into some of these ridiculously stupid things people do, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell. This way you can get notifications for future videos to help you gain an edge, or watch me slaughter people in row in my Have You Been Killed by Lucifer series. I'll just give you a spoiler, with a kill count like that, you probably have. So let's get started. Number 6. Okay, so this one's pretty basic, but it happens to at least someone every game, and that's dying to zone. And this one's not just for the new players, I've seen veteran players, it's even happened to me occasionally. It's easy to get distracted looting or get caught up in a fight, and then realize that the zone's changing and you've got half a map to travel. So if you want to consistently make it to the end and increase that rank rating, make sure you keep an eye on the map, so you know just how far you've got to travel. And just remember, no extra loot or extra kill you get is worth dying to zone, so make sure you give yourself plenty of time to get there. Number 5. Not using attachments, or using the wrong attachments. And don't get me wrong, there definitely is a preference here, but I've met a few new players that don't use attachments at all. And a 4 times may sound like a good idea on a submachine gun or an AR, but good luck getting consistent hits on a target, with them crosshairs bouncing all over your screen. The more amplified your scope, the more noticeable the recoil, so a lot of new players don't realize that a red dot is usually the best option when it comes to submachine guns and assault rifles. And it's just as important to gather all your other attachments. I'm surprised just how many people who have watched my videos have mentioned to me that it looks like I have a very little amount of recoil. Even to the point that some people have asked me if I have a no recoil macro, and to them people I had to say no, just make sure you have all your attachments, and you'll be hitting a lot more consistent shots too. Number 4. Not crouching when you're trying to sneak around. In row, sound is a big deal. You need to make sure that you listen out for people, and you need to make sure that they can't hear you either. If you know that there's an enemy around and he doesn't know you're there, you have a huge advantage. That's your opportunity to catch him off guard. But if you run into a town all willy-nilly and you don't know if someone's there or not, they're just as likely to hear you first as you are to hear them. But if you crouch and sneak in, you're a lot quieter. So unless they just happen to spot you from far away, you're so much more likely to discover them first. And if you're running solo in squads like I do quite often, you want to make sure one of their team members is dead before they even realize you're there. So next time crouch and sneak into the town that you're invading, and I'm sure it'll go a lot smoother. Number 3. Using crouch when you're in a face-to-face fight. Okay, so let me explain. Quite often you'll get into fights where you're on the opposite sides of rocks or trees or objects or buildings. It may sound like a good idea to get around a fight in crouch so that you're a smaller target, but you're also a lot slower target. When you get in a close fight like that, it's best to be fast. If you walk out to get a few shots while you're in crouch, or move around the building or rock, because you're slower, he's more likely to get more bullets into you than you are to him, because it's always harder to hit a faster target. Like, don't get me wrong, it's perfectly fine to need to crouch to sneak around because you're trying to catch him off guard. But if he knows you're there and you're already exchanging fire, it's best to just stay standing as long as you're behind cover. And this way you can just pop out to shoot off a few rounds really quick and be back behind the wall before he even gets a chance to return fire. So if you're one of the people that's guilty of this, try changing it up and see how it goes. And I'm sure in time you'll witness people do this too, and you'll see just how easy a target they are. Number 2. Okay, we're getting to the top end now, and you probably all knew this one would be here, but in a multiplayer game, it just had to be, and that's being toxic to your team. We all play online games, so we've all dealt with it, and there's nothing more likely to stop you from winning than a team that doesn't get along. And being toxic doesn't just mean swearing and being rude to your teammates, it also means not being fair with the loot. You need to try and make sure that you share the loot out evenly. Your team's not going to last very long if there's one guy on there that has 18 health packs and the rest of you just have band-aids. And your team's not going to be very deadly if one guy loots a sniper rifle and the other one loots a scope, but neither of them are willing to trade it over. So if you want to try and get wins more consistently, you're better off just trying to keep peace. And if you do come across some truly toxic players, I'd avoid playing with them. But just try and make sure that you don't become toxic yourself, or you'll probably pretty soon find yourself with no one to play with. Number 1. Now this one's definitely the most new thing that I've witnessed quite commonly. Quite a lot of people use in-game chat to communicate. So your in-game chat has 2 options, team or all. They're pretty self-explanatory. If it's set to team, your team can hear you, but if it's set to all, everyone in the immediate vicinity can hear you. So if you're not using push to talk and you have all chat enabled, everyone can hear you talking in game. So if you've been having a really hard time sneaking up on people, or people just seem to know where you are in their general area, it's probably a good idea to check your settings and make sure that you're not broadcasting to all chat. And if you do want to continue to use all chat, it's best to just make sure that you've put it to a hotkey. This way you can still hear if anyone else is talking in all chat, and if you want to, you can still talk back just by using the hotkey. So yeah guys, that was 6 common mistakes that I see way too many people making. If you think this video has been helpful, like, subscribe and hit the bell notification. Lucifer out.